Green Day, Jesus, the large organization of survivors from Walking Dead Season 6. These are some saviors. We're talking startup saviors, the best picks you can make in the first 12 rounds of a Dynasty startup. Producer, hit the button. Let's go. Welcome to another edition of the Dynasty Pulse right here on Fantasy Sports Advice Network. We are locked in and bricked up. There's stiff competition out there, but we are stiffer. I am Bigz. Grindberg's in the house. Schultzy on the ones and twos. How are you fellas doing?
Man, I haven't heard you do that open in so long. Wow.
What?
It's good.
What?
It's good. It's good. One you just finished, you know? Schultzy's on the ones and twos. We're bricked up. Haven't heard the word bricked up in a while, and I am actually getting bricked up right now, Bigz, because you had that open. Great job, my man. Schultzy,
turgid.
love it. I love it. Blast from the past. Schultzy, what's going on, man?
Hey, I'm doing very great. The one thing I know is we are not Negan.
No,
we are not.
We are not. We are here, though. We are here, and we are here to talk about a quick shout out here before we get the show going to one of our sponsors, Fantasy Spin. And if you want a different kind of daily fantasy experience, Fantasy Spin lets you spin your lineup, make your picks, and compete in tournaments based on real player performances. Check the link in the description and the pinned comments. Use promo code PULSE and deposit at least $10 and play at least one tournament to get $30 in bonus play. Support the network. Check out Fantasy Spin and let's make some noise. So last week, we talked about, the worst picks in a startup in every round. And there was some heated discussion. There was some disagreements, but at the end of the day, we gave our viewers some really great insights, and we are going to do it again tonight with the best picks of every round. And I felt this was a lot harder to me than the worst picks, because the best pick in every round, especially in the top heavy rounds, they're a bit more challenging. What do you guys say, Bigz?
Yeah, I have the picks that I made that I put in the show sheet, and I regret every single one of them.
Can't wait.
Not regret, but like going back over the show notes and everything, I'm like, I might have made a different decision. So I think in every round, there are more than one quote unquote best picks.
Agreed. Yeah. And I think as we break this down, we're going to find some value pockets here in every round. And maybe we don't agree solely on the top end, but I think we'll probably agree on the top three in every round, regardless of how this all shakes down in the fluff here. So let's get this party started, Bigz. And
you're a good fluffer, Mike.
You've got the round. You got the round one here, okay? And talk to me a little bit about the best pick at startup, round one of a dynasty startup. And you got Jahmyr Gibbs on the board here, and I don't have much to say about this because I think this is.
Well, first of all, I want to start off by giving a shout out to the University of California, Davis Aggies football program. They hooked me up with some merch. I have a bunch of them as customers, and I said, hey, anytime you can bring me tops, bottoms, and hats, I will wear them on the shows and trade you merchandise for them. And so one of them came through with a shirt. This was number 75 offensive tackle. Good guy. Anyway, yeah, I picked my namesake, Jahmyr Gibbs. Listen, this dude is an unreal talent at the running back position. I love Bijan Robinson, and Gibbs only finished as RB3 last year. But David Montgomery is not in Detroit anymore. It looks like the Lions have realized over the last couple of years what Gibbs brings to the table when he's the spear, the point of the spear in the offense. And his efficiency is off the charts. He gives you 50-point games sometimes. He's pretty much a standout. Every league that I had him last year was a league winner. you can quibble about, it's a startup, it's a super flex, taking a quarterback to get it going. Josh Allen, Drake May. We talked about Jaden Daniels last week. Caleb Williams on the rise. Lamar Jackson is, a steady presence. And then you have your wide receivers, Jamar Chase, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. Bowers or McBride. There's a lot of options, but somebody's going quarterback in the first few picks, and if you're dropping back at like if you have pick 5, pick 6, pick 7, and Jahmyr Gibbs is on the board, that to me is the best pick that you can start a dynasty with.
Hard to argue with that to me, and I think he's going to completely be the centerpiece of that high-powered Detroit Lions offense, and like things opened up for him this year with the departure of David Montgomery, similar to how Tyler Algier left, Bijan Robinson's backfield, but both teams added some depth, but at the same time, I mean, in consideration, Jahmyr Gibbs is a guy that has got everything going for him, and I think that explosive playmaking ability, the pass catching chops, and the center of the highest powered offense in the league, undoubtedly here at this stage. Yeah, I love that in a game changing position. I think this could be the year for Jahmyr Gibbs, and we may be talking about him as being the 101 next year in dynasty startups, and that's a great call here, Bigz. He's the 104 in right now, and I think that might be some room for progression here. Schultzy, what do you say about this?
Oh, dude, as the guy who took him in the first round last year of our startup here, and might I say, took a little flack for it. What else do I got to say? I love Jahmyr Gibbs, man. This guy's incredible. He was RB1 in 2024, and we were told that ain't happening again. Well, okay, he was RB3. Rats. You know what? He scored 4 more points than he did the previous season, so it wasn't even a Jahmyr Gibbs thing. He was slightly better. It was a couple other guys happened to blow up even more. So we lose David Montgomery. We add Isaiah Pacheco. I think Pacheco has a role here. I don't think it is as much volume and as impactful as what we saw out of the pass of Montgomery. I think they want to give Jahmyr Gibbs the ball. Watch what happens when they focus on this guy. It's incredible results time in and time out. I mean, Dan Campbell had just said like a week ago or something that they plan on making this guy the bell cow and flowing through him. And I don't see any reason to not believe him.
Yeah. I mean, there you go. I think we're all on the same agreement here that Jahmyr Gibbs is kind of the smash play. You could think quarterback here. You could think wide receiver. Both positions tend to have a little bit more longevity in dynasty. And I can see your take on that. An elite tight end, especially in tight end premium formats and Brock Bowers. But to me, I think the shift here is Jahmyr Gibbs. And I think, wow, I'm surprised that all 3 of us are in agreement here. And Bigz, you took some pressure off here. Maybe all your picks are savvy. What do you thought?
I don't know. We're not going to agree on the next one. So,
all right. Well, I'm going to get all right. Let's get into it then. To me, I like Drake London. Okay. Drake London in round 2. And I've been pounding for him, and you can get him later in round 2. So if you want, to hold off a bit here, he is at the tail end of round 2. And, if you got a round 2 pick, you could trade out if you like a guy like Drake London. And I think you're building a safe floor, a championship ceiling, and I think this is a value monster in the earlier rounds. 24 years old, alpha, just dropped 68 receptions, 919 yards, 7 touchdowns on 112 targets on only 12 games played in 2025, flashing wide receiver 1 dominance before, the injuries hit, in an offense primed for more volume with a fresh extension, locking him in with the Falcons. through 2030. London is a big-bodied target hog who wins at all three levels and feasts in the red zone. This age curve stud gives you a locked-in wide receiver one production at a discount that separates real contenders from the pack, chasing name value. Round two is an absolute highway robbery right now, in my opinion, and that's because Drake May slapped everybody with his 88 overall PFF grade, near elite receiving mark, cementing him as one of the league's most complete young pass catchers. Serious managers know you take the proven first round pedigree and consistent production at the cost before the price skyrockets into the back end of round one, and he may be there next year. I predict a top 4 wide receiver finish here for Drake London, and only 24 years old. I see this. One could argue maybe Trey McBride. I'm not sure any of these wide receivers.
You're not arguing.
Yeah.
You're putting it out there.
Yeah, I'm putting it out there. So your argument opposed to it could be different. I mean, Ashton Jeanty was the other one that I was really leaning towards going in this round. And oftentimes he, Drake May has gone before Ashton Jeanty and some of the startups that I've seen. So that's why I think Drake London is the value here. So the value at the later stage, I could trade back to get him. And I'm splitting hairs between him and Ashton Jeanty in this round here. So Drake London is my guy.
To quote the great Shia LaBeouf in his Oscar-worthy turn in the Transformers movie, no.
All right, well, let's hear it.
Perfect.
Right. So there's a lot of depth at the wide receiver position. There's a lot of movement every year in terms of what happens in the top 24, and there are a lot of candidates to have great years that will help your fantasy football team. When you're talking about positional scarcity and you're talking about positional value, you have a guy like Trey McBride who's sitting there. At any point in the second round, he's first round worthy. Not to say that Drake London isn't, but I want to fill out the tight end position. Most people play in a tight end premium, so I want to get one of Bowers or McBride before I get London. And if Trey McBride is being taken in the second round, I'm spraining my thumb smashing that button. The other candidate,
give me Loveland in the third, which is way better value. He's my tight end 2 in Dynasty right now. I'm not pegging Trey McBride to have a similar season to last year. You're gonna be, looking at Carson Beck on the back end.
Season before, and
Carson Beck
was a quarterback throwing the ball to him in the end zone to have his big season. The other one that I want to talk about, and I'm kind of glad that Chev's not here. A couple shows ago, I talked about the ceiling of Jackson Dart, and I don't know if I'm not taking Dart here over London as well. So
we talked about him being the worst pick, and you were in agreement last week.
Jeanty is
you were
I wasn't in agreement. I just didn't.
You were talking about him being on the back end of the second round. You were talking about him being one of the worst picks, and you weren't defending that at all.
I didn't defend him. I just kind of sat there.
Yeah, why wouldn't you defend your boy then?
Because I didn't want to get into it like that. Because I know that we would.
That's how I remembered it. He didn't agree, but he also didn't fight it.
and then you have Jeanty. Jeanty, I'm smashing, and we were doing startup mock drafts where we were taking Jeanty and Love at the very beginning of the second round, and if you're taking somebody at the beginning of the second round, that's obviously your candidate for best pick. So I'm not gonna argue Drake London's talent and his ceiling and the potential for him to have a huge year, but let's look at his quarterback situation. We have Tua and Michael Penix, and Tua is not the guy, and Penix hasn't done anything in 2 years. You can
other than hyper target Drake London 40%, and that's not going to change.
Injury. But I mean, it's still Penix isn't a savior, and we don't know what's happening with Tua. So I feel like there are better plays at hand. Now, if I'm he's going as number 24,
yeah,
If I have the last pick in the second round and Drake London is there, of course I'm taking him. But
This is the best pick of the second round at 24. And I said that initially I would trade back to get the value there. I think
who
that
are you taking at 13 is the question. Who are you skipping over everybody else to make sure that you have? You're not taking Drake London at number 13.
Well, it really depends on how the first round went, and oftentimes I don't even take a first round pick. So, like that's where it lies. Like then I'm taking Jeanty at the one, and I said that too. Jeanty is the guy, but they're at the polar opposite ends of the round. So value, longevity, and scarcity. I like London there as a probably a safer pick long term, and a guy that could buy. I like both of them. I like Jeanty and London, and that's where I'm splitting hairs here.
I'm glad we agreed differently.
There it is.
This one's Jeanty for me. Bigz talked about positional scarcity a little bit going to the tight ends, but I feel this way about running backs. I want as many like quote unquote workhorses as I can get on my team. As I think that's somewhat of like a dying breed, right? Like most teams are moving to trying to use multiple dudes. And if you can get a hold of that guy who's going to command that kind of snap share, like I want all those guys I can get right now, because the way the defenses have gotten a lot smaller to adjust for speed of offenses, like these workhorse running backs I think are about to like really shine here. And I want as many of them as I can get. So give me Jeanty. He's young. He's got the profile. And we've got the rookie season we saw with absolutely zero help. So like to me, like there is some production there. Like he overproduced from the situation. There's the profile, there's youth, there's the workhorse, the workhorse volume. For me, it's got to be Jeanty.
Yeah, I mean, I like Jeanty there. I'm sticking to Drake London at the complete opposite end of that round. You know, you guys are talking about, you know, the quarterback uncertainty with Drake London, but there's still a lot of question marks around Nash and Jeanty as well. We all thought, even with, you know, the offense he was in last year, some of us had him as a top 10 running back, Bigz last year headed into this year, and he was far off of that. So we can't assume just because Clint Kubiak is there and things are a little bit better in the quarterback situation that Jeanty is going to be a home run hit here either. We've seen what Drake London can do as well, and so like I mean, I like where I'm sitting here with that pick. Both of those guys are pretty solid, have to say, for sure.
Sweet.
All right, Schultzy, I'm going to talk about another guy, and that's my favorite round 3 pick here, and that's Emeka Egbuka. And, you know, I think after looking through this board here, Colson Loveland is another guy I'm really highly considering here as the smash pick in round 3. But I think Emeka Egbuka is the one that I like at wide receiver. He's kind of lower down on the board. Loveland is steaming up, and I've seen him go in the rounds 2, so I'm not sure he even lasts around 3 anymore. You know, Egbuka has got a super interesting situation, and people have been talking about it for a while now. If his first half of the season would have been his second half of the season, his ADP would be steaming completely up. Suffered that injury, so did Baker Mayfield. He had a really outstanding, you know, first part of the season last year, and we were talking about it last year a lot on the show. Wide receiver 3, fantasy points per game through 5 weeks, but, you know, situational noise, tanked his final stretch. That's not talent, that's opportunity waiting. Mike Evans is gone. 37% of the team's air yard share is gone. He's primed for 140 plus targets, 1,200 yards in 2026. And I'm giving him a really good mark here headed into this year. I got him as, you know, a top 10 wide receiver, I think, headed into this year. I think that's not outside of the question. When you look at the other wide receivers in this tier, you got Tetero and McMillan, who I don't like this year, especially, connected to Bryce Young, who, Schultzy, you've been really low on. You look at the quarterbacks who I faded last week, Jalen Hurts, Mahomes nursing an injury, Trevor Lawrence, I think is also a very good value. But I think that if you're waiting on quarterback, there's other opportunities here. So, to me, it's between Colston, Loveland, and Emeka Egbuka, and I'm just going to go with my guy, Emeka Egbuka, because I think that Loveland might be steaming up into the second round by the end of the summer here.
Yeah, I love me some Emeka Egbuka. Everything you said is dead on. What? Who's to say if that hamstring injury doesn't happen that this isn't okay? That pace wasn't going to sustain through 17 games, right? Like nobody's saying that, but if this rookie season played out over 17 games, like to the level that I don't know, like just 80 to 90% of like a peak rookie season for him. Like, even if that's what we got, what you're saying is very true that the value would be higher here. There was a lot of pieces of that Bucs offense that kind of fell apart, and with all the health coming back, I think there's all the reason in the world for this to bounce completely back. And it's not like we're drafting a dude who did absolutely nothing, right? Like we saw flashes of absolute brilliance from this guy. So yeah, I can't argue that, but just for the bit, like, how about we talk about Trevor Lawrence for a second? Because the value is massive here. Now, I do agree with you that if we're waiting, I think I am probably going to wait a little bit longer here. But if we're taking a guy in this round, I don't even care. Call me a homer. This is who I'm taking. We're coming off a QB4 finish on a season where he spent half the year figuring out this offense, where they literally spent half the season trying to figure out what the heck they were doing, right? There was pre-snap penalties. We had Travis Hunter not knowing where to line up before plays and they had to call timeouts. Like sometimes you had Trevor yelling at him where to go. There was a huge adjustment period from this offense to learn this Liam Cohen scheme. And it came together after the bye week. And they were fourth in EPA the second half of the season in the whole league, right, as an offense. This wide receiver room is going to be really hard to predict, right? There's a lot of freaking talent there. We just added a couple of tight ends to the room. We still have Brenton Strange. There's a lot going on in this offense. It's going to be tricky. Well, who's the one steady piece of the whole thing? Well, it's the guy throwing the ball. He's ran 70 times, 3 times in his career. He just rushed for, I believe, 9 touchdowns last year. He's going to keep scrambling. Liam Cohen encourages it because he knows it's a good part of Trevor's game. I don't know. I just don't know what Trevor, it's a Jaguars thing, right? Like, it's a Jaguars bias. Nobody wants them to be good. Nobody wants to take their players. I mean, people are having fun with the wide receivers right now, but people are still having trouble shaking that narrative of Trevor that we went into last year with. And it's time to put it to bed. Like, this dude was a legitimate MVP finalist this year. And like I said, we spent half the season figuring it out still. So now we get all this talent coming together, a full off season where Trevor knows what he's doing, and now we all get to take the second level step together. We're drafting last year's QB4, who's 26 years old, at QB 11, when he spent half the season figuring this crap out. Math ain't mathin'.
Math ain't math. Yeah, he's a good value.
Stop. You're both right.
Yeah, there it is. There's some good values there. All right. Love it. All right. Before we get back into it, we got to talk about FSAN Plus memberships on FSN.com. Make sure you get that. You'll have access to our jersey leagues. You'll have access to our rookie guide and all the pro membership perks that you would want. So have at her. All right. Schultzy, get into your round 4 guy and kind of like what you're talking here.
Well, I think I maybe came around a little too late on Chase Brown, but it's undeniable at this point, man. And to me, this is the best pick in the round. We've got a combination. He's 26, so the youth isn't fully there, but there's there's years left out of this. We've got a little bit of youth, right? We've got great offense, and we've got a team that has refused through the last 2 years to give this guy any competition. So that tells me they love the guy. It tells me that they think this guy can do it. And when you go look, he could do it, right? So everybody wants to talk about the beginning of last year, and it was a really rough start. And it looked like the doubters were going to be right. But the second half of the season is absolutely stupid here, right? And he brings himself back to running back 7. So it's back-to-back RB1 seasons. And we've got a lot of years left of this, man. Joe Burrow's not going anywhere. Jamar Chase ain't going anywhere. Like, this offense is going to be very good for a very long time. They're going to keep scoring points. And as long as Chase Brown is the guy there, like I said, they've shown zero interest in adding anything around him. Like Samaje Perine's always kind of been a slight thing, right? They added Taj Boyd. I don't know. Someone's going to talk that up again this year, and there might be slight carries there. I'm not talking to anybody else in this offense anymore. We've seen it for 2 years straight. And then the offseason moves tell you everything you need to know, man. The production's there. The future's there. The offense is there. And the team has told us they love him.
I mean, hard to argue what your point is there. I mean, there's no competition. They got an elite offense. I could easily see Chase Brown finishing as a top 5 running back this year. You know, there's also, you know, narratives for one Breece Hall as well, that elite talent, you know, and getting the contract. They have a stable quarterback. I know, you know, Bigz might have some nightmares on Geno Smith, but you know, I think they're going to play Geno Smith for the whole year. They want stability in that offense. They invested in that team this offseason with all their first round picks, and I think they're actually making some good moves here. So I'm liking Breece Hall as well, and I like his draft capital, maybe slightly more than Chase Brown. And Chase Brown is a win now kind of guy, similar to McCaffrey, and you know, people are going to steam up, you know, Kenneth Walker as well. So I still have Chase Brown ahead of Walker. I still have, you know, in Dynasty right now because of the insulation of his high-powered offense, and we don't know what Andy Reid's going to do with his running backs. You know, he hasn't sustained anything outside of, you know, the Sean McCoy days and maybe the rookie season of Kareem Hunt. So, yeah, I tend to lean that way. Maybe Breece Hall would be my pushback, and you know, if you were to talk to me last year at this stage, Trevion Henderson would be up there as well. But I'm going to say maybe Breece would be my only pushback in this section if we're talking running backs, and maybe Garrett Wilson as a wide receiver push. Bigz, what are your thoughts?
I think the only pushback I would say is a personal one, and typically this is right around the time that I start looking at quarterback, and I really like Brock Purdy as a solid guy.
Totally.
I tend to take quarterbacks late, build up the running back and wide receiver and tight end rooms before I start going quarterbacks, because there's a lot of value in quarterbacks, especially guys that have ceilings to finish in the top 10, even though they're drafted as, you know, quarterback 13, 14. And so this is like, I might be looking Brock Purdy here, but I don't have any problem with going with Chase Brown, especially if I took a quarterback earlier, or I'm looking to fill that running back position. I do like him. I am big on Christian McCaffrey too, but Chase Brown I think is the best pick here.
I like round 5 or 6 Brock Purdy a lot more than I like round 4 Brock Purdy. And that's kind of where I've seen him go in a lot of these startups. So he's steaming up quite a bit.
I like round 9 Brock Purdy.
Yeah, well, I mean, get him in round 4 and you're paying the piper. All right, talk about Tucker Kraft.
Tucker Kraft is a tight end. He plays football in the NFL for the Green Bay Packers.
Shit, I'll get to know.
Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks are gone. They gave a bag to Christian Watson. It's the Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, and Tucker Kraft show Tucker Kraft was huge before he got hurt, and in this round, I like him more than anybody else.
Oh, he's hands
Argue with
down the
that.
alpha in this offense. Like, I argue at the wall that Christian Watson just got paid, but this is the guy.
I mean, he's that yak guy. He could be a difference maker for that offense. I mean, now they're consolidating, the targets. Yeah, potentially. You know where my pushback is, and it'll always be at this stage. Round 5, Luther Burden is a huge value to me, and I think that this is going to be one that could be down the line. One that we're going to be talking about. I like, if you're going tight end, Tucker Kraft is currently my tight end 5 in Dynasty, because of couple variables, but I think that he's steaming up quite a bit right now, and for good reason. He's getting compared to like ones like George Kittle, that elite yak. He's found wide open randomly because he's disguised in the formations, all that kind of stuff that happens there. And yeah, I don't disagree with the call. I have him in Burden. Guys, how much I love Luther Burden. I think he's gonna. Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't hit this year, I'm gonna be losing a lot of money. But if he does, goodness gracious, great balls of fire. It's gonna be good. And the only other one there in this range here would be, if you're a win now kind of contender here, and you got a wide receiver, elite wide receiver one like a Jamar Chase, and you pair him with like an AJ Brown that just went to a new situation. His knee really worries me right now, and long-term longevity of AJ Brown. Obviously, the Rams were really concerned about that as well because they were in the hunt for that. But as a win now team, AJ Brown might be the prize there, but certainly not drafting him over Luther Burden or Tucker Kraft. So yeah, I agree with this.
What about the guy who has 3 straight top 10 running back seasons in a row? He's 25 years old, and we still never talk about Kyren Williams.
Yeah, I mean, Blake Corum is certainly steaming up, and I think that this is the year that they showed their cards. Obviously, McVay really likes Kyren Williams, and I think he's always going to have that spot in that offense. But at the end of the day, Corum nursed an injury his rookie season. They gave him some run, and I think they're going to continue to give him some run because he looked electric. He had juice in the red zone. And Kyren Williams is still going to be relevant, but in a shared backfield, how much is that really relevant when you got, a difference maker in Kraft or a difference maker in potentially Luther Burden here. So, yeah.
I mean, he's gotten double-digit touchdowns 3 years in a row as well. I'm not super concerned about it. I mean, he's locked up, I want to say, the same amount of time as Blake Corum, so I don't even think it's a shoo-in to say that Corum is the answer beyond that, right? I don't know. I just feel like there's disrespect here for Kyren Williams year in and year out, and I used to be on the train, but for me, like a guy who's getting drafted at RB17 who is 25 and has 3 straight top 10 finishes, that feels a little silly.
I don't know, but I mean,
it says round 5 Bigz player Tucker Kraft, then Grindberg to comment. Doesn't say anything about Schultzy piping.
It does not say anything about Schultzy talking about Kyren Williams. All right, DeVonta Smith, who's breaking him down?
Ooh, okay. So for me, this is about like we still get some running backs here who I think are gonna take the load, but I think there's some wide receivers here that you can start to take some real advantage of, and I think Jadarian Price has a future. I know Chev talked about last time that there's some real concern there, but I think there's a path to workhorse volume, and if that's the case, I think he's a solid pick. But with the AJ Brown trade, I just don't understand how you can't jump at DeVonta Smith right now if you're drafting before the skyrockets on you, because it will. Like, it's going to. There's no doubt about it. So get this price while you can, because this is just a phenomenal football player. One, he's on the field all the time. He's produced every season. He's been on the field. And when AJ Brown is not on the field, he goes nuclear all the time. Bigz was just talking about in our redraft show some of his splits, and Bigz, you can hit them off here, but like they're pretty bananas if they're still readily available to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But
I can get there.
I mean,
So when AJ Brown was not on the field over the last 2 seasons, DeVonta Smith has a 38% target share and 2.69 yards per route run. And for those of you who aren't huge analytics people and don't follow yards per route run, it's one of those sticky metrics that is truly a harbinger of good play and fantasy points. And so yards per route run, if you're not familiar, is something that you should be tracking. When we are looking at rookies coming out of college, the elite level wide receivers are in the range of 1.5 to 2.0 yards per route run, and with AJ Brown off the field, DeVonta Smith's yard per route run is 2.69. That is just crazy work. And then against man coverage, with a minimum of 200 routes, he has over 4.21 yards per route run. That's number one, according to PFF, of any wide receivers. There's a bunch of metrics that there are only 39 pass catchers that have cleared all of the thresholds. 80% route participation, 25% target share, 2 yards per route run, 30% first read share. They're the best of the best, and DeVonta Smith was on that list. He's being drafted here as wide receiver 27 in startups, and he's going to return top 15 investment at least. So yeah, this is the best pick in the round.
I think it's the second best pick in this round, and I'm going to go with another wide. I'm going to give another wide receiver here. I'm still very bullish on DeVonta Smith, but not as bullish as you guys. I actually like the guy a lot. He's easily my second pick in this round, but not the single best value available. You know, he posted another efficient season last year. You know, you talk about his targets without AJ Brown, but that's when AJ Brown's not there and they don't have anybody else to complement him. They just spent 2 first-round picks, Mekhi Lemon, Eli Stowers. They have Dallas Goedert there. And yes, he's going to be the undisputed guy, but I really like Mekhi Lemon, and he's making some noise in camp. And I think round 6 is great territory for Smith, and I think he's going to crack the top 12, like you mentioned on our redraft show. But there's an absolute highway robbery here, in my opinion, for one Zay Flowers in Baltimore under new OC, who's already moving him about, you know, the focal point, likely is no longer in the picture. Nothing screams I built a dynasty like passing on the ascending sturdy alpha who's younger. Mind you, both got round 1 draft capital, and I'll give you credit there, Bigz. Smith has, you know, a model of consistency. I give him that high on my board, but Zay Flowers is a superior round 6 play, massive yak ability. He's going to have red zone trust with Lamar Jackson and a clear path to 140 plus targets as the Ravens' new centerpiece. Mekhi Lemon is going to surprise people immediately next to Hurts, which caps, you know, Smith's ceiling a little bit, you know, compared to what you guys are talking about here. So I'm a little worried about that 170-pound frame holding up to defenses that funnel everything his way without Brown drawing coverage, yet the production and route polish keep him firmly in that tier for me. But I just think that Zay Flowers is the guy here for this round. And I see him as a top 10 finisher this year. I could see him as a top 8 finisher at the wide receiver position. And give me all the Zay Flowers I can get, and I'm picking him straight up over DeVonta Smith, and I'm trading him straight up over DeVonta Smith right now in Dynasty. So I'll do that.
I do like Zay Flowers moving forward. I felt like he's been grossly misused. Like, the talent coming out was great. The profile is awesome for today's NFL. And then the flashes are always there, right? Get this guy the ball. And some of the stuff he does with it in his hands is just so electric. He feels like he's been a little misused. And I think you're dead on that. There is a spike coming for Zay Flowers as well.
I do want to shout out Rio Linda legend, #NorCal, Cam Juggernaut Scataboo.
There we go.
Welcome back, kid.
Oh yeah. He's also going to be a guy that steams up. So I think those three guys are clearly the ones here. And yeah, let's speed along here, boys. Great show so far. I'm going to bring up this next slide here. And I'm going to talk about my favorite pick here in round 7. And I had a tough one on this one. I was waffling between a couple guys here. Josh Jacobs, if he hadn't been in the situation where he had, I think this is a good value here for him. But at the end of the day, I'm going with Jameson Williams, and we've seen what he can do. It's pretty straightforward here for me. He's going to have those spike weeks. He's a best ball kind of guru guy, but he's become a focal point of that offense. And especially in those high powered games where they're going to need that to stretch the field, Jameson Williams is a great complement to Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. That explosive offense is still there. He's only 25 years old, first round draft capital. And you know what I mean? He has those spike weeks. So you kind of know what you're getting here. He won't be, an elite target earner, but those highlight reel plays, they start piling up and they continue to do so. And JMO is that guy, and he's a guy that can switch your lineup as a wide receiver 3. I'm willing to, take him everywhere I can in this situation. Not sure anybody else, maybe Waddle at this stage with a new environment, but Schultzy, you broke it down on the forecast last week. There is some question marks there. I do like this situation, and some of these quarterbacks, there's some question marks around them. So not sure anybody else I would be taking over Jameson Williams in this round. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about this call.
I can't argue with it. I was literally about to say this is just an icky round overall.
It is, yeah.
I don't. If we're playing tight end premium, especially, I'm all for Kyle Pitts at this range. I think that's just a volume play. I don't think it matters who's playing quarterback. We've talked last season at some point about his usage, right? The ADOT came down and the targets went up. And that's fine. Maybe it's not going to be as explosive as we wanted to coming out with him. Because when you see that profile and that athleticism, you're thinking big plays all the time, right? And that's just not the world we're living in with Kyle Pitts. Where we have found the success has brought the ADOT down some and just more volume. And I think that's just volume we can rely on, and it doesn't matter a ton who's playing quarterback. So yeah, I think Kyle Pitts is a good nominee as well. But overall, yeah, not a great round. I like trading out of this one.
Yeah, trading out of this round is a nice one.
I'm looking at these quarterbacks, and they're all panic quarterbacks. Oh God, I need my first quarterback, and it's got to be somebody who has a job. And then the running backs are like Etienne, who we don't know what the role is going to be. Henry, who obviously I love, but to build a dynasty around, I don't know about that. And then Jacobs is kind of up in the air. Kenyon Sadiq, we know the guy is athletic, and the Jets invested heavily in him. Casey Concepcion, who is his quarterback going to be? We just saw a video yesterday of Shedeur Sanders throwing a ball into the raised arm of a defensive tackle who was standing there for about 20 seconds before Shedeur unleashed it.
That was the Statue of Liberty
straight into his hand. So yeah, I'm on Jameson Williams in this round too.
All right, Schultzy, break down why you think Alec Pierce. Maybe you've made this call before you heard about the surgery he had, but you may be still in on him here.
So I definitely made the call before we just got this ankle update, right? There was 2 guys. It was him and another guy, and I'll talk about them both a little bit. I'm not super concerned about this ankle update, right? As long as we get him back in full work by the season start, I'm cool. We aren't learning a new offense. I've talked in the past, when I last talked about him, it was on this show about as a riser, right? One of the things I liked about him was it didn't matter who's playing quarterback. He's thrown big games on the field with 3 different quarterbacks this season. So it's not like he's got to have this time to adjust and gel with the guy. He literally did it on the spot with 0 time with 2 different quarterbacks after Daniel Jones went down, right? So that's not a huge concern of mine. Do you want to miss training camp? Is that ideal? No, it never is. But when you got a guy like this in the upward trajectory of his role, the team loves him. They just paid him. And then you look at the kind of the round we're in, the group of guys we're in. We just talked about the quarterbacks. Like, obviously, if I'm going for now, like, Stafford in this range is a great deal. He's gonna vault your team if you're going for a ship this year. Like, let's go, Matt Stafford. But yeah, for the wide receivers, I can see the Christian Watson argument. But for me, I think I just want this reliability of Alec Pierce in an offense that he is. Tyler Warren's probably going to be the number one target getter, but it could be Alec Pierce. Like, I don't think that's a crazy statement, right? So where we're drafting him at wide receiver 31, and I just saw people talking today about this, where like someone saying that maybe in redraft he's going at wide receiver 36. I don't know, whatever. I saw the number wide receiver 36. They're saying he's a horrible value there. And that's just kind of nuts to me. Like, that's a back end wide receiver 3 for a guy who's likely going to be second in his team in targets. So I don't think the Colts offense is going to suck that bad that the second target getter is going to be worthless. Right. So I don't know. Like I said, as long as he's back, I think we're fine. Monty's the other guy. We've just got massive vet volume or vet value coming into a good team who wants to just pound the rock and play defense. And I just think this is going to scream great value and a good season for David Montgomery, man. Like, it's not going to be pretty. Like, he's not going to go out there and light the scoreboard up and drop you 35 a game or whatever, or, go out there and have multiple like 35-point games. But like, he's going to be a steady Eddie who, when the season's over, he's going to kill that RB27 draft capital.
I like so many of these guys in this round over round 7. I'd pick so many of them over round 7. Yeah. So maybe the value is here.
I think that's a very fair point. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, give me Bashal Tutin, give me Matthew Stafford, even DeVonta, DeAndre Swift is going to be going off this year. So many good values here.
I'm staring down the barrel at a wide receiver that had a top 10 finish with Justin Fields as his quarterback and
DJ Moore,
wide receiver 16 with a rookie Caleb Williams who couldn't throw the ball. And that's DJ Moore, who is now aligned with Josh Allen and no competition for targets. Like,
this is a great round. So
it's very interesting that a whole round later that, like, we don't have the time to go back and do it for now, but I'd be curious to see how many guys we would put above that round.
You could literally rotate the 2 rounds and be fine. Like, 7 and 8 could be rotated, right? You know what I mean?
Never Bryce Young.
All right, Michael Wilson. Talk about him, Bigz.
So Michael Wilson is a professional football player that plays in the NFL for the Arizona Cardinals. We know Kyler Murray was not great for the wide receiver position, and we know that Marvin Harrison Jr. is a very, very good player. Michael Wilson absolutely broke out, 6'2", 213 pounds, year 3 breakout, finishes wide receiver 10 in PPR leagues last year. The potential is still there. He's got Jakobi Brissett. He's going to be learning Carson Beck over the next few years. He's an absolute stud. We knew that coming out of Stanford. We just needed the usage and a good quarterback, and he finally got that last year. When you look down this round, like, I like Stowers. You got DK Metcalf, who's, he's had some good years. Terry McLaurin has had some good years. Parker Washington had a big breakout last year, but I don't know how he's going to fit as far as everybody healthy on the field at the same time. Kalman Ungai has competition in the backfield. Omar Cooper is a rookie. I know Mike is super high on him, and I like him, but in this round, I think I'm pulling the trigger on Michael Wilson over anybody else.
I don't mind the call. I like Michael Wilson. I like him also. I do like Parker Washington quite a bit here, and I think that slot role is very important in a Liam Cohen offense. And as long as Travis Hunter is not in the picture there, I think, if they go BTJ and Parker Washington, I think that's a really dynamic duel. And we can't forget the season that Terry McLaurin had in 2024. And I think this is another huge season for him as well. So yeah, I'm pretty open to Michael Wilson, Terry, and Parker all in the same range here. And yeah, I mean, pretty much all of them are pretty even. And if I can get any of them in this round, probably I'd go Parker, Terry, and Wilson in that order. And then Jordan Addison is slightly under. I'm some worried about his quarterback situation. Schultzy, what do you got to say?
Don't disagree with any of that. We starting to hit like just take your guy kind of spot here.
Totally.
I don't hate Dalton Kincaid here at all. I think he's a little bit on the rise in that offense. I know that injury that he played through in the second season was really rough, and that really slowed him down. We saw a little bit of a comeback this year. And like Bigz said about DJ Moore, there's not a ton going on there, right? So, yeah, DJ Moore, I think should lead the team in targets, but I think Dalton Kincaid's going to be second, man. Like I see a path where he's rising up too.
Love it.
Don't sleep on Khalil Shakir though.
All right, let's do it. Okay, let's power through the last three guys. It was about 3 minutes each. And Bigz, talk to us about Isaiah Likely.
Isaiah Likely, formerly of the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. He and his receiving mate named Highly. It was highly unlikely. So the Giants gave him a bag, 3-year, $40 million contract to come play tight end for them. And we've been waiting 4 years for this guy. Some of his like per game production when Mark Andrews was not on the field, it was elite. And all he needed, again, like we've talked about with a few other guys, all he needed was an opportunity. The only competition he has is Theo Johnson, who we were all really high on for the last couple of years. But this is a coaching staff that went out and got this guy to be a primary receiver. And he's got Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson is gone, and Cam Skattebo catches a bunch out of the backfield, but I think Isaiah Likely is going to have a huge year as a tight end in the New York Giants system, and he finally gets his shot to be a 17-game starter, and I'm here for it.
I'm here for it too, Bigz. I really do like this call quite a bit, and you know, I was kind of surprised when you put him on the show sheet because I had him as well as a top end on this tier here. A couple of things that I would maybe point out in this round is I'm surprised that you weren't high on Denzel Boxon, especially with all the OTA reports. He's kind of leading the charge there in the Cleveland Browns offense, but obviously with the question marks in the quarterback situation, and we don't really know how that offense is going to shake out. There's some big time question marks. Jaden Higgins is a guy that we were really high on last year headed in here, but I think that offense in general isn't going to be super pass happy. So if I'm a contender, I may look off of Isaiah Likely if I'm building that way and potentially go as a split with either Mike Evans or DeVonta Adams. But I think as a regular dynasty startup where I'm not kind of making my ground here yet, I think Isaiah Likely in a tight end premium is a very good call here. I really do think that with Malik Neighbors potentially sidelined longer than people think, this could be an explosion for Isaiah Likely right out of the gate, and that could be something that just, you know, percolates into long-term success for him. So yeah, love the call here, Bigz.
I like Jaylen Warren in this one.
Yeah, we know that. Yeah, we enjoy you talking about Jaylen Warren. If you want to hear Chelsea talk about Jaylen Warren, be sure to check out the fantasy forecast tomorrow, airing at 7:30 a.m. Central Time.
Great and plug. Also, if you'd like to hear what I have to say about George Kittle, watch any of our previous shows and also the fantasy forecast.
Here you go. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit here about Josh Downs as my favorite round 11 pick, and I think I was waffling between him and Zach Charbonnet because the steam is starting to come up again here in Seahawks camp. He's recovered a little bit more, but I had Josh Downs as my pick here before even that news broke and before the Alec Pierce news broke. So this is even more gravy. This is a straight up gift from the fantasy gods, and I think that, you know, with Daniel Jones coming back healthier, Michael Pittman gone, and you know, Alec Pierce coming off that ankle surgery. This is targeting me for Josh Downs to have a great, massive year for Breakout and become a really big player in that lineup here. Wide receiver 2 high-end production is what's coming here for him. And I think that he's an elite separator. We've seen what he can do. And as long as he's not being taken off the field in 12 and 13 personnel as much, I think this is a good situation for him. Josh Downs is been elite as a separator, and Daniel Jones really targeted him highly over last year. So I like this situation. 55 receptions, 566 yards, 4 touchdowns on 88 targets in 16 games last year. So I think that this is only room for improvement. 24 years old, entering his prime, only a 3.4% drop rate, an elite 21.2% targeted on routes with a 1.36 yards per route run, which isn't elite, but pretty respectable. And I think that this is going to be really good for him, especially with that injury. And he can come out of the gate flying here, especially if Daniel Jones is ahead of schedule, like he's being shown here. So that's even short term. So long term, like the situation, like where they're headed. And Josh Downs is wheels up for me here in round 11. Schultzy?
Yeah, I really like Josh Downs. I traded for him in a league going into last season and have fended off some people this offseason for him because I see a path going up again. Yeah, we lost Michael Pittman Jr., obviously. But if there's a little bit of pause for Alec Pierce, then that bumps up Josh Downs. Now, if I'm going to pick a guy here, I think I might lean Michael Pittman, based on I think kind of similar reason why I like Aaron Rodgers, right? I think Aaron Rodgers is going to hit this guy pretty quick and rely on him a lot. Pretty quick hitters, easy stuff. And because that's kind of a little bit of what role he played in Indianapolis and worked out very well for them. So I think I like Michael Pittman here as well. But I think Downs is a good pick.
All right. Finish this show off with your last player here, Schultzy, and Bigz can comment and close this out.
Okie dokie. So for me, this is like I really like Kenneth Gainwell. I think there's a big jump here in this Tampa Bay offense, a chance to catch a lot of passes. However, when we're looking at the big picture, Jakobi Meyers is a no-brainer in this group for me. This is the wide receiver 1 of the offense. Now, I'm not saying that in a stat sense. He may not finish as the top guy in the stat book, but from like a formation sense, right? This is the wide receiver 1. He's a great blocker. He doesn't leave the field. When he got traded to Jacksonville, let's see here. He went out and had 60 or 44% snaps, 65% snaps after that, then bumped it up to 84. From then on out, he never saw less than 83% snaps. He just hardly comes off the field. And for that reason alone, when you're drafting in this range, I've got a guy who's going to be on the field for guaranteed 85 to 90 snaps of an offense that's about to score 30 points a game and is on the rise. That's simple. That's value city right there, man. Like wide receiver 56 right there on the board. And he's going to play all the snaps in an offense that's going to score this much. It doesn't take much more than that to me. Now, you listen to Trevor talk about Jakobi, and just on a podcast I was listening to actually this past weekend, they asked him, they were talking about wide receiver chemistry and stuff, and he got into a little bit about that, but they asked him, has there ever been who's the guy you've clicked with the fastest in your entire career, just that you've ever played football with? And he said, without thinking about it, it was Jakobi Meyers. And he talked about how quarterback friendly this guy is, how professional he is, how good he is at setting up routes and getting himself open, at how consistent he is. He's always going to be at the exact same spot at the same time. When Trevor knows exactly what this dude is doing all the time because he's such a pro's pro. Wide receiver 56 in this draft, like I said, this guy doesn't leave the field for an offense that just paced top 5 stuff through the second half of the season when they finally figured it all out. And there's a real argument that this is the skeleton key that figured out the entire offense, right? So what are we doing here?
I do like him.
Of the great Shia LaBeouf in his Oscar-worthy turn in The Peanut Butter Falcon. Sure.
I love it. I love it. That was Italian reply.
As a Raiders fan, I was super happy when Jakobi came over from the Patriots. I took crap from, I don't remember if it was, I think it was a show. It could have been even Bradley. When I made a statement about Jakobi maybe being the best slot receiver in the NFL, and that was a few years ago. The guy just catches the ball. I mean, that's all there is to it. He just, he catches the ball. He's a professional. He's an incredible route runner. He can play in the slot. He can play on the outside like he showed when DeVonta Adams was hurt in Las Vegas. I think that there's more there than you think, Schultzy, when you say he could be the key that unlocked the offense last year. I think that's absolutely the case. And
right.
Getting him this late, the only thing that I could possibly say about any of these picks is that maybe if you want to go Mark Andrews, we talked about Isaiah Likely and the fact that he's not in Baltimore anymore, and we know what Mark Andrews does when he's healthy and he plays a full season. He is getting on in age, but you're sitting here in the 12th round, and I think Mark Andrews is going to definitely return better than tight end 18 value to you. So that's the only one, but I love Jakobi Meyers here.
I like Jakobi Meyers too. I agree with the Andrews take. Give me Kenneth Gainwell ahead and Jonathan Brooks as well for just upside plays here. I think Jonathan Brooks could be the lead back there. We talked about that on the forecast. And Kenneth Gainwell, you broke him down quite a bit, and I think he's got a lot of value. We can't discount the age here from Jakobi Meyers. He's 30 years old as well, so he's not a spring chicken. And an offense that's got a lot of pass catching, and I think that he has unlocked that offense, right? He does play a lot on the field, but they do like to rotate in and out as well. So you're going to see guys rotate in, and I think that, BTJ and Parker Washington are going to be the focal points of that offense, and with some Bashal Tutin sprinkled in. And I think that, Jakobi Meyers is going to be a great best ball pick, and he's going to have some spike games, but it's going to be hard to pick those games. So I think that if we're going with volatility, I like Brooks. I do like the floor of Gainwell, and like Bigz mentioned with Mark Andrews. So all those guys are splitting hairs. So yeah, I like that you brought Meyers into the picture here, because I like him over those other 4 wide receivers in this tier here. So yeah.
An entirely different conversation, but in my opinion, BTJ is the best ball guy. I mean, they've established that he's the vertical threat here. That's the role he's going to play, and that's the screaming best ball play for me.
Yeah, they're both. I mean, you're going to have to rely on. I think that Parker is going to get the stability there. He showed in last year on the home stretch that he's the guy that they're going to rely on in the slot. So, you're going to have to rely on Jakobi in 3 wide receiver sets, and he's going to be blocking in running position. So,
I disagree. I'm not going to be shocked at all when they open the season with 2 wide receivers and it's Jakobi and Parker. I won't be shocked even the slightest bit.
You might not be, but the steam that BTJ, the capital, and maybe they're just trying to showcase him for a trade, but I'm buying into a little bit here on the BTJ, and you can't forget his 1,200-yard rookie season, 8 touchdown performance. So
no, and I don't think they're trying to pump him up for trade. I think they're literally trying to pump him up for him, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's what I don't think they're trying to move him. I literally think they're trying to squeeze more out of him. Totally. I just like Liam Cohen said it himself, when he said they evolved his role to being more of a downfield threat and a vertical threat. And he raved about Parker being able to win on the outside, win in the slot, win at all 3 levels. I mean, he absolutely raved about Parker's ability at anywhere on the field. And when talking about BTJ, pegged him as a one style guy, right? So I'm just saying, if we open the season and there's 2 wide receivers on the field, and most of the time it's Meyers and Parker, I won't even be remotely shocked.
Yeah. I mean, are you going to bet on Meyers making it on the field or their first round draft capital guy? And that's kind of like, who they're pushing towards that narrative. So that's the
Yeah.
volatility for me here in this round.
Oh, I'm putting my money on the guy who saw 90% of the snaps when he joined the team. And like once they ramped him up, he saw that snap share the entire way. That's the guy I'm putting my money on.
All right, Bigz, let's take it home, buddy.
All right. If you are a veteran watcher of the show, welcome back. Light up the comments. Tell us how wrong we are. Argue with us. Get at us. If you're new to the show, do the same thing, but also welcome. And follow us. Go to fantasysportsadvice.com. Get your pro membership. Follow us on Sellout Crowds and play Fantasy Spin, all that stuff. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, and we hope you win.
Yeah, we hope you win, folks. We'll see you next week. Peace.